A little while ago, I did a post on VO2max and longevity. This is kind of in response to what Dr. Peter Attia had talked about it. And he says it's the single most important thing that determines your longevity. And I guess the question I raised is whether it's really trainable or if it's a baseline thing, because he advocates a lot for that you train this as high as you can. So anyway, I did some research into the internet, and I guess some people believe it's pretty trainable. And so I decided to look at my own history of this. I have not had my VO2 max measured, but being a distance runner most of my life, I do have performance standards from my distance running career, so to speak, and you can translate that into probably an estimate with the VO2 max. And so I think that this is probably a pretty good proxy of what's happened to me. And wow, did I learn a lot about what's going on with me. And I guess just probably who I really am as a person. To give you some backdrop, when I was in junior high, I definitely was not thriving in school. I think my father became very concerned and he had me try a number of things. And basically it seemed like just checking them off one at a time. I just really wasn't good at anything. And so anyway, just as I entered high school, which was 10th grade for me, it was a 3-year high school, he made me go out for the cross country team. I guess he figured I might be good at that. So yeah, so anyway, I went ahead and started out running. My first 2-mile races, did it a couple times, basically in a fairly untrained state, 14 minutes. And so I think that's a good measure of my baseline VO2 max. And so anyway, I got into it and I improved. But anyway, let me show you this. This is, this kind of shows what my progression was over time. So what I got here are different color regions. They represent percentile ranking of your VO2 max. So purple, which is right at the bottom here, you see is about 5%. Then it goes 5 to 10, 10 to 25, 25 to 50, 50 to 75, 75 to 90, 90 to 95%, and 95% is the red. And then this black bullets with lines on there are just basically notable times that I've run basically during my life. So as I say, a couple 2-mile races started out with 14 minutes. As you can see, this based on VO2 max would have put me in the bottom, maybe 30%, which is, again, this is no surprise. I'm not really good at anything, so. And so actually, compared to most other things where I seem to be in the bottom 2%, I guess this actually was something I was kind of good at, by comparison. So anyway, I trained hard and I really got into this. And over really the next 5 years, I was able to improve my running times that actually would have put me into the top 5%. So I guess, this actually works out to be like a 55% improvement in my VO2 max. And so I guess it's very trainable. Now running kind of was my thing from, school throughout most of my adult life. So you can see I maintained very high percentile ranking until recently. And I have to say that during this period of time, well, I'm talking about school in particular, I remember there were people, especially on my college team, that started out being able to run practically like a 10-minute 2-mile on no training. So that puts them like around 90 to 95 percentile. And of course, these people were way faster than me in college. I came away from high school and college believing that I just kind of sucked at running. But when I got into the workplace and I joined the running club, suddenly it was bizarre. It was like, now I'm actually a good runner. It was really kind of a strange feeling. It was actually awesome. It was something I was actually maybe kind of good at it. And for the first time in my life, people actually wanted to be around me and talk to me, and you know, I could participate in something. And I have to admit, I totally loved it. It was because social integration is difficult for me, and I'm not being particularly good at anything. It just made it even more challenging. So anyway, inspired by my daughter's gymnastics, I started switching over to strength training, and this happened when I was about 53 years old. And I remember running a 5K when I was about 54, and I actually had gained some weight too because of the strength training I'd been doing for a couple of years. Yeah, a year and a half or so. Anyway, so it was 19-minute 5K. And then when I was 56, it was a 21-minute 5K. And there you can see the drop, from the 95th now into the 90s. And one of the things I found really remarkable, which seemed to be particularly accentuated after 58 years old, was just a catastrophic drop in my running times. And as you can see by the color scale, I've gone from the 95th percentile or better. Now I'm into the 50 to 75th percentile. In other words, I'm coming down fast. And so, what does this all mean? Well, first of all, I guess thinking about the VO2max and the longevity thing, and also the question about trainability versus baseline, I guess this is making me come to the conclusion that it's really the baseline that matters. And here's the issue. As I've switched away from the cardio or the running training to the strength training, basically, my body's now, I feel like it's relaxing back to its baseline level. I mean, this is one of the things I'd wondered why it was coming down so fast, because I knew my baseline wasn't great. And, this maybe not come as a great surprise, because if you think about it, there's only one thing you kind of control, and that's what I would call your training effort. In running sense, you could think of that, amount of time you spend running. What you don't have control over is the return on that training investment. What they call ROI, if you will, return on investment. And in a running sense, this is a simplistic way of thinking of it, but just think of it in terms of miles per week. And the problem is that with aging, no matter where you start, the return on investment declines with age. I mean, this is why you don't have 60-year-old athletes, competing with 20 and 30-year-olds at the highest level of sport. And that's what's happened. Of course, I've accentuated because I'm not putting the training effort into the running as much now as I did when I was only running. But you can see that from what's happening to me, it's crashing down pretty quickly now. And so when I look at this, I realize, okay, probably what's going to really determine my longevity is my baseline VO2max. I mean, you can kind of delay that decline by by not making the training emphasis like it did, just keep it going. But the problem is that the return on investment is always going to keep going down with age. And so the important thing I really believe is the baseline VO2max. And when I look at mine, I see that, maybe 80-ish is probably as long as I'm going to live, because as I say, it's eventually going to go back to the 35th percentile, which is probably not very good. And, and I'm actually even okay with this when I think about it. I really don't know if I found anything in my life that I would say I'm naturally talented for. I mean, with a lot of hard work and effort, I've, got myself pretty, I guess, decent at running, and it was awesome to go through that experience. But eventually, I just can't out-train that. And now I'm doing the calisthenics, and I fear that, the same thing's going to happen there no matter what I do, because I know I started at a really low baseline in terms of strength and athleticism, and it kind of sucks, but this is who I am. I'm just not a gifted person. And actually, as I say, I'm okay with it. I'm looking forward to going to heaven, and putting an end to what's, for me, a life that I seem to spend a lot of it struggling just to be able to perform at some level of average ability. And I have to say probably what I've accomplished in running is probably really amazing given where I started. I know my high school cross country coach, said that, I started way too far behind to expect to be good. He said just running would be for fitness and just health. And so having said that, I really highly doubt that you're going to add 20 years to your life, but just trying to optimize your VO2 max. I mean, I don't dismiss that I could have 5 years by these training activities I've done. But that's just because you as I've speculated in the previous video about this, that I've slowed down the rate of decline to my baseline and maybe stretched it out a bit, but I don't think I've in essence fixed the fundamental problem. And so anyway, this is kind of my follow-up video on VO2 max. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for listening.